Hello everyone, welcome back and thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you all are doing well by the grace of God. So my people, that this particular video, powerful video from Professor Udenta, a man that I love to listen to because he always speaks true to the power, honestly. So he talks about the state of the nation and as well as Tinubu's first media chat and this thing that is going on between Niger Republic and Nigeria. And also he talks about, how weak our National Assembly is because these people, they are just doing boy for Tinubu. These people, they are not even representing us. Even some bills that we had, they passed into law. Like these people, they are not even aware of it. Because is it not the other day that Senator Abaribe came out and said that they are not even aware of the new presidential jet they bought? So this thing did not even go through the House of Assembly. So these people, they are just there for their selfish reason. They are not even representing Nigerians. Let me not waste your time. Just listen and hear everything that he said in this particular video.
As we begin to navigate the realities of 2025, Nigeria stands at a crossroads facing significant challenges in governance, security, and economic stability. But there are also opportunities to chart a course toward growth and resilience. What's the state of the nation? Where does our priority and focus lie? And/or what should it be? My next guest will help us get to the heart of the matter because understanding our challenges is the first step to overcoming them. I'm delighted to have Professor Udenta O, a political scholar, distinguished fellow of the Abuja School of Social and Political Thought, and the founding National Secretary of Alliance for Democracy. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
It's a pleasure to be with you, Constance.
Happy New Year.
Same to you.
Good to see you.
It's a pleasure.
So let's start, with the political climate of today. What is your perspective on the state of Nigeria's democracy? Are there signs of progress or regression? What's your take?
Let's look at, let's start this conversation, broadly speaking, on the state of the nation by looking at the mindset of the president and his team. New Year Day, there was a message to Nigerians. Before then, there was a media chat. Before then, there was tax bills sent to the National Assembly.
Yes.
And then further back, 2023, there was subsidy. Subsidy is gone and gone for good.
Yes.
Each one of these will constitute elements of a process. But the subsidy is gone on inauguration day, both the submission of the tax reform bills, both the context and the content of the media chart, and then equally the New Year message, produces a graphic picture about the president, the presidential team, his focus both on the economy, on policies, on politics, and democracy. What is that is very clear for Nigerians to understand is simple. There is a creeping new messianic streak you find that is resistant to conversation and dialogue and respect of diversities. And this new messianism is folded around or wrapped around what one can call incrustations of false divinity. Divinity is like when you are like a god. You do no wrong.
Yes.
But God himself is humble to the degree that he listens to mortals. When the National Economic Council, forget the northern governors and northern political leaders, said, headed by his vice president, a constitutionally prescribed body with a mandate to advise the executive branch led by the president, pulled back the tax reform bills away from the National Assembly for broader consultations. The vice president, not of PDP, but of APC, 36 governors of the subnationals, central bank governor, etc., etc. What did the president and his team say? Forget it, we're not going to pull it back. It stays where it is, with the National Assembly that has vowed to do all his bidding, whether they are glorious or inglorious. Two, during the media chart, which I'm sure you guys participated in, you find that tone of condescension, of paternalism, of handing down, of arrogance that is almost insufferable to say, we know it all. There is no space for you to penetrate to give advice. It's in the context of that the governor of Bauchi State, for example, the chairman of the PDP Governors Forum, spoke up on Christmas Day and again on channels. One of the programs said, no, Mr. President, if the economic policies are not working well for the people, for those of us at the subnational, it's our duty as those who hold the baton there, to speak up. Speak up, not to undermine you, but to give you some tough words based on tough love.
Right.
What to do.
So you already assessed the leadership. I want to understand what the issue here is for you regarding the tax bill. Is it that there wasn't enough consultation, or it's that there are certain things that need to be moved around the tax bill? I mean, there will be discussion.
Democracy
yes.
is conversation.
Yeah.
Democracy is contestation of ideas.
So we're going to have that because...
you don't put the cart before the horse.
Right.
If you have a policy as monumental and as deep-rooted as the tax bills that will reform the entire tax administration system that have been maybe cast in iron for 20, 30, 40, 50 or more years, what you do is that you tease out the broad strokes or the framework of what you want to do and engage critical stakeholders. Even if you did some minimal level of conversations, the Northern governors gave you a clue on what to do. They met in Kaduna with all the traditional rulers and said, we're not going to pack this, pull it back. You have a vice president who's from the North. It is duty to shepherd that environment, to have gone there, to say, this is what the government means by this. What the president and our team means by it. They didn't do it.
So you don't think this has anything to do with regional sentiment?
No,
it's
because,
much more
because
than that.
beyond that, they brought it back to the neck.
Right.
The Economic Council headed by the VP of the 36 governors who sat and said, after hours, we find a lot of problems here. There could be promises and possibilities, but a lot of problems here. Pull back these bills so we don't get embarrassed somewhere down the line. The reps and the senators come from states, from constituencies. They represent their people. You may have taken control of Akpabio and his leadership, and Abbas and leadership, but not the bulk of those members there. What did the president say? No, they will stay. These bills stay there. You don't put them away.
Yeah, because
then if you look at even the conversation during the media chat, every statement for the media guys who enter expression is to put down. No, I'm excellent, performing very well. Abadi asked that question and said, the people is the one to judge, not you. Now, the sense of that judgment already rendered as excellent is that sense of new mechanism. When people speak, Labour has come out now to say, we are opposed to this. The governor of Bauchi said, didn't say, I'm even opposed to it. He said, we in the north are worried. Those in the east are even worried. Those in the south are worried. We have some elements there we could work with. But broadly speaking, you need to converse with the people. Climb down from a high horse. When you get it wrong, eat a humble pie.
Right.
And then engage with the people. It's very important in a democracy. And before you go on, as pointed by Governor Bala Mohammed, Bola Tinubu was part of a struggle for democracy. I was part of that struggle. He suffered exile, suffered detentions. When he became governor, he put Obasanjo on the spot. He resisted his government. He opposed him. He went to court against him. When even he left office, he persisted in his confrontational stance, sometimes for good cause, against Yaradua, against Jonathan. He led marches. Even during this last election, remember that Buhari was of APC. He gave a state broadcast, and said, the reform of the Naira has come to stay. It was injudiciously done. One governor from the north, supporting the current president now, gave a counter directive in Kaduna and went to court against the city president of his own party. The heavens didn't fall. Right. So while with noisy aides of the president, hold to task a governor who loves his people, who is actually advising the president to sit up and listen to them, because those toxic policies are not working for the people.
So what you're trying to unpack is a sort of a cult personality. I mean, we'll probably had something similar during President Muhammad Buhari, who also had a messianic, figure or personality that a lot of people thought he could do no wrong. So now we are here today. Which way forward?
It is growing in depth and range. Buhari was laid back. That means this country could flow in any direction it wanted. That means the possibilities for intervention were there. This presidential team, they are not laid back. A governor speaks and aids, pour out. Labour leaders speak aids, we pour out, invade media spaces, use the bully pulpit of the presidency to put them down. What they're doing is to do what? They destroy the guardrails of democratic governance built on 4 planks. The first plank is the media, which is constitutionalized, free speech, and media freedom and human rights built there. 2, political parties under his severe stress, PDP and Labour Party and so on, in order to collapse the infrastructure of the multi-party democratic system. 3, weaponize the justice system. Look at the way the small boys were brought out for us to see. Some collapse in the court over protests against hunger. And most crucially, you find that in the loss of civic space. Look at the fountain where they bring back the girls. It's shut down and gated. So you find that the creeping sense of new messianism or false divinity is already unleashed. And if we do not, as Democrats, put our feet down and say, we don't want the president to fail. That would mean the country failing. But at the same time, we don't want to create a leader who will not listen to the people.
In your opinion, are there enough enlightened minds today in Nigeria that are willing to stake all to rescue the country?
The essence of media conversation is to build quietly and slowly, but resolutely, a core of democracy-loving Nigerians who are going to put out their neck and say, for the sake of democracy and human liberty, look at the state of the economy. When I look at the presidential New Year message, I marvel at the sense of disconnect. That disconnect is almost absolute. In this regard, for example, in one of the statements that Mr. President said, apart from a few tiny individuals who are seduced by regional, faith, or ethnic, or religious sentiment, the rest of the country are in harmony and in endorsement of his own programs and policies have been given him mandate. Not Mr. President. It's only a few individuals who have phantom-themed, all day and all night white party. People have opulent boat regattas. Those who live in Tower Bay and the Co-Atlantic and Lekki. Those who fly over the rest of Lagos.
Right.
That's tiny band of the people who seem to appreciate the way and manner, the toxic nature of these policies you have unleashed, have damaged and demeaned and humanized Nigerians in the millions across board. If you look at that statement again, he said, the Naira has appreciated from maybe 1,700 Naira to 1,050. The petroleum products have fallen, maybe from 1,030 Naira to 1,010 Naira or 900 and something Naira. When you met it at 164, when if one of your aides told the governor, we give you more money, I would have answered. I don't know whether the governor answered that, said, I wanted small money under Buhari than the big money you give me because the money meant more than the one you're giving me today. 30 billion of 2 years ago is possibly what 300 billion of today.
In civilized, advanced societies, people talk about enlightened self-interest. They talk about elite consensus. They talk about custodians of a society. Where is our own elite consensus? Where are our own custodians?
Elite consensus is built as a product of democratic power, which is given to a set of individuals at every historic time.
Do we even have those individuals?
Of course they are there. In 1999, Obasanjo received power democratically and said, we need to beat a level of elite consensus to build national consensus. We need to bring the other two parties, AD and APP together and include them in governance. We need to converse so that we can build. The first attempt to reform the constitution in 1999 was a multi-party attempt Obasanjo set up before the 2005 grand design that collapsed with the third-term agenda. Jonathan did same with the national dialogue or national constitutional conference, and even Jonathan with the short time he had, did that with amnesty and the post-amnesty framework, and then the reform of the electoral process. What do we need at every point in time this president is lacking? I said it in this studio and several studios. He wants to transcend the political state or the political class. He wants to diminish the ability of political players to weigh in the conversation of governance. And so he wants to speak directly to the people. But unfortunately, the policies he unleashing on the people are toxic policies that are not only improving their lives, but rather diminishing their humanity. So he can still recover if he wants to recover, but he wants to remain in the sky, in a high horse, rather than climbing down there and listening to the subnationals, to the governors, to the people at the local grassroots. Then it is quite possible that this country could begin to pick up the pieces of where we are today. So
let's look at his economic outlook and plans. How feasible? Because this touches on everything that you have been speaking to.
I look at the New Year message is not actually deep in terms of policy, just a lot of wishes and suppositions and aspirations and so on. But a lot of things there come out about the mindset of the president and his team. It looks more like something written by or for the World Bank, almost as if the fundamentals are good, the robust tenor of the macroeconomic system and foundation, the stock market is roaring back into life and heavily there. That doesn't put food on people's table. That doesn't shrink inflation. That doesn't make people who are trekking, having abandoned their cars at home. That doesn't make insecurity to have vanished overnight. Rather, it is creeping across the country from the northeast to the northwest, from Boko Haram to Lakarawa, and so on and so forth. So, wishes are horses, okay? If they are horses, beggars will ride. Mr. President will have a slate of wishes and aspirations for the new year, but unless he changes course dramatically and the method of governance, and then unless he reins in his noisy aides, who will at every drop of heart, pick on people, who represent tendencies, represent interests, represent geographies and demographies, there's absolutely no way he can require his presidency. I said here, in one show, he's lost the presidential plot and lost the nation in that regard.
And what does that mean for us? That's
frightening, and even more frightening for me, because sometimes we say that domestic policies reinforce foreign policies. Foreign policies get their bearing for domestic policies. If you look at one segment of the policy framework based on this fear you and I are talking about, the Sahelian region, Nigeria and Niger.
Niger, yes.
We'll
have that tussle with
Niger.
Niger.
What Senegal is saying. This year is the last year, the last time France will have a single soldier in Senegal.
Yes.
Cote d'Ivoire, the same thing. Chad, the same thing. Mali, the same thing. Burkina Faso, the same thing. Niger, that is bound in history and blood and culture with Nigeria, the same thing. So you have lost your near neighbors. You see ECOWAS implode under your watch. Something as a gift, as an inheritance from our ancestors. One is still living for 50 years. It imploded.
Yes.
And then people who have pushed France off their back, colonial and imperial France off their back, you're embracing them in a beer hug.
So I'm going to ask you.
That is calamitous for national security.
So I'm going to ask you, so you do have problem with this new romance with France, between France and Nigeria?
It's not even whether I have the problem with it.
Yes.
One of the ambassadors on a show, on another station, someone said, you can change your trade partners, you can change your neighbors. It is geography. Mohammed Haikel, one great Egyptian guy, said, the destiny of any nation is a factor, a product, a consequence of geography and demography. Northern Nigeria and Niger Republic, including the former president, Buhari, has roots in Niger Republic. They are bound in blood and culture and tradition and history. And because they've said no to France, you have to say no to France. If you don't say no to France, and Mali has said no to France, Chad has said no to France, Senegal has said no to France, it's either the most tomfoolery level, blind foreign policy that is incoherent and decomposing, or somebody's playing a funny game with Northern Nigeria. There's no way you can defend it. That's why Ukraine is up in smoke with Russia. It's near neighbor. They're worried about whether they will go to NATO or EU. That's why Cuba is suffering for 60-something years over nothing, just because they are 90 miles on the coast of Florida.
So you're essentially saying Africa first before the West?
Absolutely. Nigerian foreign policy has been Afrocentric. From the 60s, it's actually the fire and spirit of decolonization. How then do we get the colonial powers off? In the 70s was the emergence of ECOWAS, regional integration, regional cooperation. Even from the Basajo and Murtala Mohammed side, it is a forceful Afrocentric radical philosophy, pushing back Western hegemony. Babangida, through the help of Professor Bolaji Akinyemi, evolved the concept of medium powers. Nigeria is a medium power. We can't allow the big powers of those days, the Soviet Union and the USA and the Western imperial world, to dominate us. I'm coming. So they did that with ECOMOG. Obasanjo did with AU, peer review mechanism, NEPAD, an African peace and security architecture. But when it started the unraveling of Nigerian foreign policy, under President Bola Tinubu's watch, ECOWAS has imploded for the first time in history. And then your neighbors in the Sahel are telling you, back off France, and you have France in a beer hug. That is the condition for national security breakdown.
So why
why
do you think the president is threading this path?
I don't stay in the villa with him. I don't advise him. People like us are talking because, like the governor of Bauchi State said, people should raise their voices because if the Mr. President is not listening, and those around him do not want to listen, every one of us will suffer in the rest of the country. So I hope this programs like this, will make them listen to say, it's a dangerous gamble with Northern Nigeria and Mali, and Niger particularly. It's a dangerous gamble with France. Whether you cast it as economic relationship, you can't separate economic relationship from political, military, and strategic relationship.
Finally, what is your view about his foreign minister? Because, the foreign minister, the minister of state...
I don't know much of foreign minister, but the point I had, those who are in the foreign policy environment or domain, they believe that the foreign ministry derives most of its imperatives and impetuses from what you see from the presidential power play, how the power flows down from the presidency. Even though it is a strong foreign policy ministry, it will help to galvanize presidential foreign policy to say, this is what we think will work best for Nigeria. Apparently, between the presidency and the foreign ministry, there's a collapse of coherence. That collapse of coherence means Nigerian foreign policy is an inchoate state. That means it is not come together to build a strategic whole, what they call grand strategy. What the grand strategy with engagement with France? We don't know. What the grand strategy of seems to push back on Niger Republic that has 1,500 or more kilometers with Nigeria, from Ilela to Gada to other places and so on. What the grand strategy to watch your neighbors flee from France and embracing France? This is the moment in which, for me, a very decaying or decadent foreign policy or doctrine has to be revamped. And if you do that, if you don't do that quickly, just like the local scene we have here, this country is going to be in a very messy state for a long time to come.
Professor Udenta, governance and policy analyst, thank you so much.
So my people, that is it. I hope you guys heard what Professor Udenta said in this particular video. For me, he spoke the minds of many Nigerians, which I would love you guys to leave your thoughts in the comment section about everything that he said here. And also, please, if today is your first time here, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't, and also turn on the post notification bell. It is very, very important because anytime I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Share the video to your friends and family and give this video a thumbs up as well. I appreciate you all for sharing my video. And also, I just want to use this opportunity to appreciate all my members. Like, you guys are wonderful. Thank you so much for your massive support. May Almighty God bless you all. Yes, my people, I'm going to see you guys in my next update. Goodbye for now.